Hi, this is Jim Musser with Upstream Ministries, and this is episode 65 on Views from Downstream. And glad you're here tuning into this. We've been talking about the last couple weeks about assumptions that churches and parents make about spiritually raising kids. And a couple weeks ago, I touched on the assumptions that many youth pastors make about kids in their youth group. And I want to just explore a little bit how we can counteract that assumption. I talked about how it's easy for youth pastors to assume if a young person is involved, then they're committed. And I mentioned that there are many reasons besides a true commitment to Jesus that young people are involved in a youth group. Maybe mom and dad insist on it. Maybe that they have a particular romantic interest or close friends that have invited them. There are a myriad of reasons why they may be there. And I also talked about the kids who want to make a commitment to Jesus and want to be baptized, that often we assume that they know what they're doing it for the right reasons. And often that's wrong, as my experience in working with college students demonstrated. And so I just want to talk about how we can mitigate those mistakes and assumptions by really getting to know the young people in our youth groups. That there just has to be more than just a meeting and a gathering and a camp. There has to be some one-on-one. There has to be some small group where you can get a feel for where these teens really are. Because until you do, you're just kind of going at this blindly. You don't really know what is necessary to help these kids along. And so I just want to really encourage you to spend time with the teens one-on-one, asking some penetrating questions about why they come to youth group, what they like about youth group, what they would change about youth group. Talk to them about their family life, their friends, school, just to get to know them. And the more that you get to know them, the more you can begin to understand who they are, and perhaps you can understand and get more clarity on why they're in your group. And if they truly have made a commitment, you would understand that. But until you do that, you're just going to have to work on the assumptions that they're there for the right reasons. And it's easy to be overwhelmed by that whole thing because you're thinking, I don't have time for that, particularly if you're guiding a large youth group. It's like, how do you meet with kids one-on-one if you have a group of 50 or 80 in your group? But one of the ways that you can help that is to engage your volunteers in doing the same thing. And hopefully many of those volunteers are parents, and that they have some discernment and they can kind of figure out as well and help you understand where each teen is in their walk with the Lord, if they have one. And that is just so crucial. And I know the pressure that youth pastors have on numbers. I've talked to many, and that is a huge pressure point for them, that the church leaders, that the church congregation is looking for a vibrant youth group with lots of kids. And the reality is that if you just pursue that alone, you're going to make the same mistake that so many do in just not knowing where your young people really are in their relationship with the Lord, and you're going to miss it. and then they're going to go off graduating from high school and go out into the world, and you probably are going to assume they're going to do okay when they're not, particularly as my focus is on campus ministry, and many of those kids showed up and they were not interested at all in following the Lord. And so let's get to know these kids and begin to really minister to them in a way that will lead them deeper into a relationship with the Lord. And again, I know this is a challenge, and it may seem like pie in the sky, so to speak, but it just has to happen if kids are going to be really laying the solid spiritual foundations of their lives during their adolescent years. And that's where they're usually laid. And so we have to be very intentional about helping them lay those. Now, we're not always going to be successful. There are always going to be kids that walk away and are not impacted by what we've done, at least in the short term. But we can't let that deter us. We have to keep our eyes focused on helping these young people to understand how much they are loved by God and how much joy there is in serving Him. So I would encourage you to not be so concerned about the numbers and not assume that everybody there is there for the right reason, but you get to know them, spend time with them so that you can really understand who they are and where they are spiritually. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to skip Friday because it's the 4th of July and 4th of July weekend. So I hope you have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.